I promise that I will look at you guys and not the camera like I did last time I sat down and filmed a video like this for you guys. Hi everyone! Today I'm going to be filming a review video on all of the patterns that I have created so far in my previous videos. This is just going to touch base on some of the things that I didn't mention in those videos because I didn't want to ramble on for hours and hours and make those videos like hours long. This is kind of like a mini review of how I liked each pattern, as well as little things that I changed or would recommend that you would change. So to start off, I did the McCalls 7439, and I did a view B, and I did it into a steampunk kind of inspired skirt. This pattern was really easy, but the thing that I didn't like was the actual waistband with that little hump. I thought that would be a nice little touch to the skirt, but in the end it kind of wore funny, and I wish it was one length all around. Maybe I'll try that next time, is doing it one length all the way around instead. I don't know if it was me where I didn't gather it correctly, or because I kind of changed up the size of the waistband a little bit because I had cut one out that was too small, so I needed a bigger size. So I had recut one a little bigger, but I felt like all the gathers were in the front instead of the back, so when I wore the petticoat and it pulled everything out, it was a lot more flat in the back. So if I do this skirt again, I'll just play around with the gathers a little more and put most of the gathers in the back than in the front. But other than that, this was a good pattern. It's good for a beginner. It's just a basic skirt pattern. You have your gathering, and then you have the ruffle, a zipper, and a hook and eye. So it had some basic things in there, but other than that, one modification that I would do, I think it's a good pattern. And believe it or not, this is actually my first McCall's pattern that I've ever done. But I think I have to go and do a few more McCalls before I make a decision whether I like doing this brand or not. So far, simplicity has been my go-to, so I definitely need to try some more McCall's patterns out. The second pattern here is the Simplicity 8316. I made it a Cinderella maid outfit inspired apron. So I had ended up using view A for the top and then view C for the skirt. This pattern was actually really fun. When I put that whole skirt part together, I was really excited about it because it looked really neat. I mean, it looked really cute, but when I had it on, I feel like on this one, the heart was just a little too big for me, that it was kind of swallowing me up. And I wish it was just a little smaller. So maybe if I do this one again, I would definitely make that heart a little bit smaller. I'd probably pick a smaller pattern piece. I can't remember if all the hearts were the same size or not. But this is a really cute pattern. This is great if you're going to make it for someone for a gift, because it's kind of a one-size-fits-all almost. It's easy to kind of gauge what someone's size would be since it only goes from small to large. But there's a lot of different variations you can do with this, and that's what makes it fun. But when I did put it on, I did kind of feel really pretty in it, and it was kind of fun to wear when I was all dressed up and everything. I think that'd be really cute and easy to do for Christmas gifts and stuff like that. So overall, this pattern, you kind of have to know a little bit about sewing just because there's a little more details that are going into it. If you are a beginner and you really wanted to do this pattern, you could. It might take a little longer to kind of get some of the things down, but it does include a few things like gathering and hand stitching. So I like this pattern. I would definitely recommend this if you're looking to pick it up. The third pattern that I have is the Simplicity 8328. I ended up using this pattern for my alternative ball gown, and I ended up using view E, which was just the basic skirt, but it didn't have the overlay. I was using a very, very heavy and thick fabric, so it laid really nicely, and I actually really like this pattern a lot. It was easy, so a beginner can definitely do this one because all you're adding is the zipper and you're doing gathering. So for me, this pattern was perfect, and then on my video I also included a small optional area on how to add pockets as well, and I think that made made the skirt so much more fun. Adding pockets is pretty easy to do. So once you kind of figure it out, you'll want to put pockets on everything. But for this skirt, the only thing that I would mention is that this pattern for me fit perfectly, and I'm really short. I'm 5'4", and I put on maybe a 3-inch heel, so I didn't have anything high, and I barely cut off anything at the bottom. I really had to be careful how much I was trimming off to make it even, because it was literally to the length that I needed. I think I maybe cut off like an inch or 2 in the front, and then I left the back, I cut off maybe an inch in the back so that it hung a little nicer in the back and kind of dragged behind instead of floated off the floor. But if you are taller than me, I would definitely add more length to the bottom of your pattern pieces when you're cutting them out, because otherwise it's going to be way too short. This will also depend to where you're wearing it on your waist, because if you wear it a little higher or you have a short torso or a long torso, that kind of depends too. So I wore this exactly on my waist, and like I said, it was just a few inches too long, so it was barely there. But otherwise, this was really good. This was fun, great for prom dresses. I know prom is over with and not till next year, but there is definitely winter formal and things like that. So if you're looking for a good, easy pattern to put something together really quick, this is a good one. The last pattern that I did was the Simplicity 8444, and it was this Lolita dress, and I pretty much did the whole pattern. I did the blouse, the underskirt, and then the jump skirt, which was the top on view A and the bottom on view B. And this pattern was really, really cool. I have never made a pattern this intricate before, let alone more than one piece like this. I usually pick a pattern and I'll make one part of that pattern and call it a day. But making all the multiple pieces in it, this is actually a really good pattern, especially if you're trying to get into Lolita and you want to make your own clothes. This is a really good option because it's pretty close to that whole fashion and style, and it's so customizable that you can make whatever pieces you already have. You can pick out fabrics that'll match the pieces you already have. So that's a really neat thing to have. So to break this down, for the blouse itself, I really like the blouse. It came out perfectly. It fit like a glove. I really liked it a lot. The only thing I did modify was that on the collar, I did cut off about an inch, and I kind of adjusted the marks and everything from there. But originally, when I made my first one that I had messed up, it sat really, really high on my neck, and I just felt like it was too much. So I did cut off an inch so it sat a little bit lower, and that worked out a lot more. I barely cut anything off. But with the blouse, that was the only modification that I did on that. On the underskirt, that was super easy to make. I really wouldn't change anything with the underskirt. It was easy, it made sense, and it had it adds great volume to the bottom of your dress. So the underskirt is good. And then for the actual dress itself, the only thing that I was happy that I didn't add on was that extra lace on the waist. I felt like that was just adding lace to add lace. But the actual pattern itself had a lot of steps, but they all kind of made sense as I was putting it together. And once it was like all put together, those details looked really cool. Like I had been trying so hard to pick out a fabric and trims that were going to match good. And I kept putting them together, and I just wasn't sure. But once I finally sewed everything on and I sewed up the bodice, I was really happy with the choices that I made. And then with the skirt portion, the only thing I would say about the open skirt is that when I gathered it, I felt like there was too many gathers in the two front sections, and I wish I had spread the gathers out a little more toward the back. So not as much gathers in the front like how I did in the video. Because I didn't realize until I actually put it on and wore it, and when I was recording myself and seeing myself on the video, it just looked, I could tell it just looked kind of funny. There was so much fabric in these front two sections, and then the back was okay. It still had its gathers, but it just wasn't the same. You could tell like I had a lot more fabric in the front than in the back. So if anything, I would just adjust those gathers on the skirt a little better. Don't be afraid to put a little bit more in the back. Other than that, the only other thing I did notice in the video when I watched it back, when I wore it, was that I wish the bodice was a little more structured, because I felt like it was a little, it didn't give me a good form. I mean, mind you, I don't have the perfect body right now. It just kind of hung on me rather than like snugly fit me. And I wish it had a little bit more of a snugger fit, or a little more, like I said, a little more structure to the front so it didn't get so squished. Maybe like a little boning. You could probably add boning in a few sections there, or something like that. But in the end, this whole pattern was really great. I loved it. I loved making it. It was fun. The directions were, for the most part, pretty simple to read. The blouse had a few confusing bits, but the skirt itself, I think, was actually pretty okay to figure out. This pattern I would definitely recommend for someone who knows how to sew. You don't have to be an expert, but you definitely have to know a little bit about what you're doing, because this does have a lot of different things going on depending on which piece that you're doing. Otherwise, you're going to get very frustrated and you might probably give up on this project. Do a few other things first that are a little easier. Something with gatherings, a bodice with an easy lining, just something that doesn't have so much detail in it, so you can kind of get a feel for that first before you dive into this. The only sad part about using these patterns is that they only go to a certain size, and I'm already in these like a size 18, and this goes up to a size 20. I think some go up to a size 22, and that's the pretty sucky part, because I'm not very big, so anybody who's bigger than me is going to have a hard time fitting into these sizes. So you kind of have to like adjust. Sometimes if you're a little bit bigger, you can adjust the size, the patterns a little bit. Maybe I can figure out an easy way to adjust these patterns a little bit so it can fit a little bit of a bigger person. Why these big pattern companies choose to do super small sizes to an average size is beyond me, but it is a good starting point, especially if it's something you have difficulty trying to make and you need an idea of where to begin. These patterns can kind of give you some instruction on how to do a certain part or a certain piece, like sleeves or something like that, and you can go from there and adjust for yourself. So in August I will be headed back to the States, so you can definitely look forward to a haul video when I get back in September, because I will be picking up a ton of things that I cannot get here, as well as 1,000,001 new patterns to go in my already extensive pattern collection. I'm enjoying doing these videos for you guys. It's something that keeps me busy and keeps my creativeness flowing, because I definitely need that creative outlet. But I really hope you guys liked this video. I hope it was a little more informative. Like I said, I didn't want to add this into the videos that I had, because I felt like that would make the video just a million years long. So I thought maybe taking the time out to do a specific video explaining these things and why I did them would be a little more helpful to you. So please subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!